Good morning, sir. We can hear you.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you now.
Good
I
morning,
was
sir.
waiting for good morning. I was waiting for others to join. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so we continue from where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday, a quick recap. We started with chapter 1, the meaning of audit and assurance, and we were able to define what is audit, what is an assurance engagement, what are the elements of assurance engagement. Okay, we look at all of that yesterday. We went on to chapter 2, that's the regulatory environment, and I explained the rationale behind looking at the regulatory environment. We look at the need to regulate the audit and assurance services. Then from there, we went on to look at corporate governance. From there, we look at the importance of corporate governance. We also took time to discuss the historical perspective of corporate governance, right? Then, yesterday, we stopped at audit committee. We look at the duties that we talk about corporate governance. What are those things that needs to be in place? Who are the players in corporate governance? So the players are the directors, the executive management, the audit committee, and the external auditor. Those are the players that ensure that corporate governance is in place in an organization. Then we also look at the responsibilities of directors and management yesterday. We also look at the responsibilities of the auditors as regards corporate governance, right? The last one we're supposed to look at yesterday before the time went by was the audit committee, and that is where we started it yesterday. We are going to complete it today. So this is continuation of chapter 2. Any question from yesterday, class? Is there any question from yesterday?
None at my end.
All right. No question. Can we continue?
Yes,
Okay.
let's
So let's
continue, sir.
continue. So I want to believe that everybody is fine. All right. So yesterday we talked about audit committee and said that audit committee is a subset of the board. All right. Is a subset of the board. You know, in the board of directors, right? You have the executive directors, you have the non-executive directors. And we said that for the audit committee, based on the revised Conflicts and Other Matters Act 2020, that the number that makes up the audit committee now is no longer 6, it is 5. Before the revision of the CAMA 2020, we always say 6. And that is one of the reasons why I said that for you to be able to pass audit very well, to come out in flying colors, you need to be updated with the right information. Because if some of us are still using or still had the impression that audit committee makes up of 6 members, equal members of directors and members before now, and you go to write examination in November with that understanding, that could be the reason why the students might fail if the question is set around the regulatory environment or corporate governance audit committee. So that is why I always say that the audit and assurance is a living subject, okay? It updates itself every time. When the new legislation is pronounced or is implemented, it also affects the audit and assurance services. Everything will change. We adapt the new direction or the new directive or guidelines of the legislation. So based on that, the CAMA 2020 as amended stipulates that the audit committee should be made up of 5 members. Okay, that is 3 members and 2 non-executive directors. All right. So, and these people, they are not entitled to remuneration, okay? But they are elected annually, okay? They are subject to re-election annually, all right? Now, talk about that. So what are the functions of the audit committee? What are they supposed to do? So the audit committee, right, what they are supposed to do is to be able to enshrine or to implement the corporate governance, to ensure that corporate governance is in place, right? So what are the functions? What are their functions? Now, if you go to section 404, subsection 7 of CAM 2020 as amended. Now, let me tell you something again about your exams. Now, when you are writing exams, and you cannot, it's expected that you'll be able to cite the relevant sections of the law at this level. It's expected that when you want to show that you understand this topic or this paper, you should be able to cite the relevant sections of the law. All right. However, where you cannot cite the relevant sections of the law, you are expected so as not to put yourself, because these are some of the little things that makes them to fail. Somebody said that I got 49, somebody said I got 39, somebody said I got 13. All of these small things, little things, are what accumulate to something that now leads to what? Poor performance in the exam. So where you cannot remember correctly the sections of the law in CAMA, you are required to just say, according to CAMA 2020 as amended, and state whatever you want to say. Do not put the section, don't go and put the wrong section there. For instance, now we're talking about audit committee, and the relevant sections are section 404. And you want to impress, you want to really impress your examiner, you can't remember 404. You now say that section 224. That would have been a different thing entirely. And whatever you have put, whether it is correct, because you have started the wrong sections, the examiner will penalize you. Anything you have put there will be marked bad, will be marked wrong. So these are some of the things that make students to fail. Not that audit is hard, but these are the technicalities that we talk about that are present in auditing. So where you cannot remember the specific sections of the law, you are permitted to say, according to CAMA 2020 as amended, forget about the section, just quote it and continue. Nobody will penalize you in that regard. The same is applicable to when you're talking about the auditing standard. At this level, you are trying to be able to remember or recite all the audit guidelines, all the auditing standards, the ISA, the ISAE, the ISRE, the ISRS, the ISQM, all of it, you'll be able to remember and recite them. But in case you cannot recite them and you have a question in exam that you want to answer, please do not quote or do not cite the wrong auditing standard, right? For instance, there's a question that comes, there's a question on audit evidence, and you agree with me that audit evidence, the section for audit evidence in audit guidelines, auditing standard is ISA 500. Now you cannot remember it's 500, you not say that ISA 602 or ISA 620. Once you make that kind of blunder or mistake, regardless of whatever you have put there, whether you thought that is correct or not, the examiner is going to mark it bad. He's not going to overlook it. He's not going to overlook it. You might think that it's something small now, why not? You will not overlook it. Because at this level, right, that is one of the reasons. I was telling one student yesterday, one student was referred to me yesterday, and was telling me, he said that he didn't know, he thought somebody told him that there is a way to go about answering advanced and assurance question. He failed. The person got 19. And it told me that he got 19, that he felt embarrassed that how come he got 19? Now, is there a way, does that mean that there is a way to answer audits and advanced audit and assurance questions? I said yes. By the time I gave the analysis, He agreed and said that, yes, if I'm going to write it next time, I know how to go about it. So what am I saying about this thing? These are some of the things that make students to fail. Audit is not hard. But what you need to know is that audit is prescriptive in nature, it's scientific. When something is scientific, it means that you have to follow the procedure. Where there are procedures, you don't follow the procedures to the letter. Then one mistake like this, the examiner will not spare you. I told the students yesterday, I said, ICAN has been in existence since 1965. Nigeria population is 220 million, approximately. Guess what? The number of chartered accountants that we have in Nigeria, all over the world, that are chartered accountants from Nigeria, both dead and alive, they are not up to 100,000. So that's to tell you that for you to say that you're chartered accountant is a privilege. So ICAN will not just give you that honor. Say that, oh, let this person, let him go. Not like in school, they'll give you E, let my people go. That is not for ICAN. Before ICAN can release you and say that this person merits the score, then they must be sure that this person has done the needful. You understand? So you need to understand this. I'm giving you, like I said, these tidbits or these key points will be handed over from time to time throughout the class. So if you miss, that's why you can't afford to miss any class, because you never can tell when I'm going to pass an information that is the cause of, or that is debarring the student from passing the AAA, or that has prevented them from passing AAA before now. Okay, so let's continue. Now, the functions of audit committee means that the audit committee, they are, and like I said, they are extracted from the what? From the board. It's an extraction from the board, right? The board cannot meet every time. And that is why you have the audit committee that is an extraction from the board. Now, the audit committee will sit in place of the board because the audit committee can meet at any time as possible. Unlike the board that are meet maybe once or twice a year. The audit committee can meet more than that in a year. So get to understand some of these things, you will not be able to appreciate it if you have not found yourself working in an organization where you have been assigned a role, where you'll be interfacing with the audit committee. All right? But don't let that to bother you. As we go on, you get to understand so that when you now find yourself in that position, you'll be able to blend. So the functions of the audit committee are stipulated in CAMA 2020, section 404, subsection 7. Okay? State as number one, they are certain, one of the functions is that they are certain whether the accounting and reporting policies of the company are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. They are not the one that do it, but they make sure that the accounting and reporting policies of the company, of the organization, is in accordance with the legal requirements. What are legal requirements? Talking about CAMA. Okay? Talking about the financial statement as stipulated in IFRS. So when you talk about company's financial statement, you know the company's financial statement. All of that must be present. Right? Then the other function they also perform is that they review the scope and planning of audit requirements. So when external auditors come, the external auditors they are expected to present their scope, audit scope, and audit plan to the audit committee to review and get them ready, get the organization or company ready for the external auditing. Number three, they review the findings on management matters in conjunction with the external auditor and departmental responses thereon. So what they do is that at the end of the day, external auditors, when they visit the organization, when they audit the organization, they are going to go around departments, right? Now, when they go on department, there are some departments that are going to issue audit exceptions to. What are audit exceptions? These are deviations from the established standard operating procedure of that department. Every organization, every department ought to have a departmental standard operating procedure, right? Now, those standard operating procedures, SOP, needs to feed into the overall organizational set objectives. All right? Now, if an organization, if the department says that this is our SOP, this is our standard operating procedure, and I gave an instance yesterday, you said that, oh, in your SOP, finance and account SOP, you stated that bank transaction statements will be carried out and will be prepared at the end of the month, at the end of every month. Now, upon reviewing the bank transaction file, bank transaction statement file, you only found out that since January, the last time they did bank reconciliation for that company was last year, December. So that is an aberration. That is what the auditor will take as what? An exception. So it's going to write the head of the department and say, this is what your SOP states. Why have you deviated from the SOP? So sometimes some of these exceptions, the audit committee will assist the head of the department to provide responses to the external auditors. I hope that is clear. The next one, they keep under review the effectiveness of the company system of accounting and internal control system. They also ensure that the internal control system and account system of the organization of the company is what is effective. Because once you have a weak internal control system, it's going to affect your what? Your financial reporting. They make another function they also perform. They make responsibilities. They make recommendations to the board in regards to appointment, removal, and remuneration of external auditors of the company. Now, what this has done is that this has prevented the board of directors and management, okay, to be able to dismiss or sack the external auditors. It has made it impossible for the management and the board to sack the external auditors arbitrarily, because the external auditors do not report to the management or the board of directors. They report to the what? To the board and the audit committee. So as per the appointment, external auditors appointment, removal, remuneration, they also advise the board of directors on how to go about it. All right. They also authorize, another function they also perform is that they also authorize the internal auditors to carry out investigation into activities of the company which may be of interest or concern to the committee. So the organization is able to have internal audit department. So where there is a need for an investigation to be carried out, right, the audit committee could or can instruct the internal audit department to proceed to conduct or to perform investigations into maybe a breach of process or fraudulent transactions or whatever. Okay, those are the functions of the audit committee as stipulated in CAMA 2020 as amended. Now, these functions that we just explained now is also replicated when you look at the Code of Corporate Governance in Nigeria 2018. You know, I talked about when we're looking at the perspective, the historical perspective of corporate governance, Code of Corporate Governance in Nigeria. I said that in 2016, during the Buhari era, right, there was a controversial Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance that was suspended, even affected the removal of the then Secretary General of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, Pastor Paul Obazi. Okay. Now, 2 years later, 2018, I said it that a new law, a new code of corporate governance for the public, private, and non-governmental organization came into existence, right? And these laws, this code of corporate governance of 2018, right, has some semblance or similar to the functions of the audit committee as stipulated in CAMA 2020 as amended. Okay, so let's look at it. So in the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, the functions of the audit committee are to provide extant laws. Every company to which the code is applicable should have a committee responsible for audit. That is, they must have an audit committee. That's what this one is saying. Number two, all members of the audit committee should be financially literate and should be able to read and understand financial statements. That is, for you to be in the audit committee, one person, at least one person, if not all, right? All the members, they must be what? They must be able to read and interpret financial statements. Okay? Then, thirdly, at least one member of the committee should be a financial expert and have current knowledge of accounting and financial management and be able to interpret financial statements. There's no between you understanding financial statements and interpreting financial statements. You might understand financial statements, you might not be able to interpret it. For instance, you know what profit is, you know what losses are, you know your revenue, you know your expenses. Yes, you understand. But sometimes you might not be able to interpret that is what makes up these expenses. How do you arrive at the cost of sales? How do you arrive at your revenue or net revenue? How do you arrive at your selling expenses? How do you arrive at your admin expenses? Right? How do you arrive at all of these things? You might not have an understanding, but you know that the expenses are deducted from the what? From the gross profit or operating profit. You understand? So you have that understanding. So that's what we mean. But interpretation goes beyond that. Interpretation is you being able to utilize ratios, financial ratios, or to utilize trend analysis, or to utilize net changes to interpret the financial statement. But then you use ratio. What are ratios? All those ones that have to do with quick asset ratio, asset test ratio, asset turnover ratio, all of those are the ratios. There are standard benchmark for different industry. All right. So that's what we are talking about. Then for private companies, members of the committee responsible for audit should be non-executive directors, and majority of them should be independent non-executive directors where applicable. All right. Then in the case of statutory audit committee, a chairman should be elected from amongst the members and should have financial literacy. That means that the chairman of the audit committee must be financially literate. All right. Then the committee should meet at least once every quarter. All right. So that is that about audit committee. Any question? Any comment?
Why are the duties different from their function somehow?
You said?
Like, why are the duties separated from their functions?
Now you are looking at two different regulations. You're looking at two different laws. All right. Now, if you go to Hammer, the duties are there, are the ones I just explained. And you go to the Code of Corporate Governance 2018, right? These are the duties you have there. If you had gone to the one that I talked about that was suspended 2016, you see a different thing entirely, right? So all of these are just ways or measures to ensure that the implementation of corporate governance in organizations are effective. I hope I'll be able to answer your question, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Any other? Yes, madam.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, I just joined the class. I don't know the topic we are working on
What's the
right now.
name?
My name is Ufoma.
Ufoma. What's your handle? Okay,
Sir?
I've seen it. Uruma, I've seen it. Uruma, Ufoma. You just joined.
Yes,
You are
sir.
welcome. Okay, you are welcome. We started yesterday and we started with chapter 1, the meaning of audit and assurance. Now we are in chapter 2, the regulatory environment. We just finished explaining audit committee, the regulatory environment. Is that clear, madam?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Any question? Okay, everybody is fine, right? So let's continue. Now we go to the next one. Money laundering. Now, money laundering is a term that virtually every Nigerian understands now. It's not new. I'm not sure there's anybody in our midst or in the class that will say that doesn't understand what money laundering is. If you don't understand anything at all, just take a look at the popular case between Hush Puppy and the Nigerian government and the US government that was jailed. Hush Puppy, Abbas Ibayilola, alias Hush Puppy. That's a case of money laundering. Okay? For those of us that knew very well the kind of lifestyle, when before it was jailed, prosecuted and jailed, or before it was arrested, extradited, accused and judged and sent to jail for money laundering, right? It was known in Nigeria as what? Instagram influencer or social media influencer, right? So you see him then, if he wears a particular clothing, that will be the color of his Rolls Royce. And he traveled around the world, living luxurious lifestyle, right? So that does not mean that everybody that lives luxurious lifestyle, they are into money laundering, right? There's also a recent case. I've forgotten the name of that lady. She's a tech guru. She was recently arrested and prosecuted. She's in US. Okay? She's in US. All right. So what are we saying when we talk about money laundering? Money laundering is, according to the Money Laundering Prohibition Act, right? There's a new law. The new law is Money Laundering Protection Act 2023. Money Laundering Protection Act 2023. Right? Now, this act, what does it say? The law says that it defines money laundering as an act where any person in or outside Nigeria, directly or indirectly, conceals or disguises the origin of, converts or transfer, removes from the jurisdiction, acquires, uses, retains or take possession or control of any fund or property, knowing or which he or she should reasonably have known that such fund or property is or forms part of the proceeds of an unlawful act. Now, this is the definition as described or as defined in the Act, Money Laundering Prohibition Act, right? Money Laundering Prevention and Protection Act 2023. Now, it might be difficult for students to be able to memorize this and be able to give it or put it down in exam. So you can paraphrase, right? You are allowed to paraphrase. You might not be able to give it in this way. You can paraphrase. So you say that money laundering is an act where a person or an organization, directly or indirectly, conceals or hides the source of his ill-gotten wealth as though the wealth is from a bona fide source. As though the wealth is from what? A bona fide source. That is an abridged version of this definition of the Money Laundering Prevention and Protection Act of 2023. Okay? So that is the abridged version. Now, what do we mean by unlawful act? Now, unlawful act, there are many. So we are going to, it's already explained in that act, and we're going to see it there. So the unlawful acts are examples: participation in organized criminal groups, like those courts. These are unlawful acts, right? Racketeering. Racketeering is a practice where some group of people will cause artificial scarcity just to what? Increase the prices of goods or services. All right? Like now, the fuel price came down. Now it has gone up again. Before now, we used to have fuel scarcity. Those days we used to have fuel scarcity, the practice then was racketeering. Terrorism, terrorism. The latest one was the one that happened in Yelewata in Benue State, where over 200 people died. Terrorist financing. So people are saying that there are some people that are financing the killing of those people. Trafficking in person, of this one. People that go to other countries to go and use them as what, sex slave or indecent labor. A popular one is one that they do in the Arab, where you see Nigerian ladies will go for greener pastures in Egypt, in Oman, in Iraq, in Libya. They call them Shangala. In case you don't know, that is the group they call them, Shangala, right? You have smuggling of immigrants. Like all those are borders that are porous. You see, sometime before now, you used to see Benenoas, they smuggle them into Nigeria to come and do what? Housemaid, right? Sexual exploitation of children, illicit trafficking in narcotic drugs, and psychotropic substances. Psychotropic substances, all those colos, monkey tail, all of those things they take, right? Mint, all those things are psychotropic substances. There's a recent one that just started now, laughing gas. Okay, laughing gas is the gas they use to pump into balloon to make it inflated, inflated, right? They use to inflate balloons. That gas that they pump is called laughing gas. So if these days people are sipping it, they inhale it, they'll just be laughing uncontrollably. We call those things psychotropic substances. Illicit arms trafficking, illicit trafficking in stolen goods, corruption, bribery, fraud, currency counterfeiting and piracy, tax fraud, and any other criminal act. Those are what we mean by what? Unlawful act. Now, in money laundering, there are 3 stages in money laundering. There are 3 stages in what money laundering. You might need to, you don't need to write, but since you have a copy of this audio at the end of the class, you might not need to write, but that one, everything cannot be in this material. Otherwise, the material will just be as big as I can pack. I can study text. Okay, so there are 3 stages in money laundering. You have placement, you have layering, and you have integration. Those are the 3 stages in money laundering. You have placement. That's the order. Is an order. Placement, layering, integration. Okay? What do we mean by placement? What do you mean by layering? What do you mean by integration? Now, by placement, what we mean here is that when somebody that is involved in unlawful act, like those Yahoo Plus, once they cash out, what do? They go and put that money in a bank. Okay? They put the money what? In a bank. Or they use that money to go and bury the money. Because they know that if they put in a bank, EFCC and all those government agencies can trace it to them. That's what we call placement. The second stage is called what? Layering. Now, when they put the money in a bank, right? Some of them, they have the bank officials as their friend. They have them as friends. So what do? They give them tip-off. When EFCC lands or tries to check, you'll be the one to tell the guys, EFCC, they are on your case. So what do? They will now ask, they will advise the Yahoo Plus, those money launderers, to replicate different accounts. So they will make it difficult. The essence of layering is that to make it difficult for the law enforcement to trace the origin of the money, the source of that money. So that's why you see them, they always have like 50 bank accounts, 200 debit card, credit card, and all of those things. That's to make it difficult for law enforcement to be able to track the source of those ill-gotten wealth. The last stage is called what? Integration. After the unsuccessful attempt of the law enforcement to be able to unravel or to detect the source of the wealth, right? That bad money, that blood money has been what? Has been baptized into what? Into white money, into good money. Because at that time, the law enforcement has stopped going after them. What will they do? They will go to the bank, withdraw the money, and use it to do so many things. You can use it to set up businesses, build hotels, right? Uh, have car lot, right? Do so many things. Okay? That's what we mean by integration. I hope it's clear. If it is not clear, let me use a typical example of movies. If you watch a movie where they are doing blood money or money ritual, right? When they kill somebody in the movie, the person, the killing of that person by the herbalists will make money to be generated. We see it in Nollywood, right? Now, when the money is generated, that huge money, what would it go to? They will keep the money and take it to the bank. Bank cannot, the bank, what do you call that thing? Counting machine cannot dictate visual money from original money. The bank counting machine, the ultraviolet rays that they use, the whatever lights they use, that purple light they use to detect fake or genuine money, cannot dictate ritual money or blood money. So everything will go into the safe. That is placement. Now, layering is when on tip off, they start tracking the ritualist. So what do the ritualists do? They will open several accounts, several bank accounts in different banks in a way to make it difficult for the law enforcement, EFCC, DSS, and all of them, ICPC, to be able to what? Track them. And after that has been done, what will they do? They will go to the bank, because they could not get them, the DSCC will desist from tracking them after a long time. They will now go and withdraw that money and start to use that money for so many things, building houses, building hotels, building car lots, right? Doing all sorts of things. Charitable organization, all of those things, they can now start to do it. That is what we call integration. I hope that is clear.
Very
Are we
clear, sir.
together? Okay. So the Money Laundering Prevention and Protection Act, right, states that no one individual should be able to deposit in cash 5 million naira as an individual. If somebody should go to the bank now and say, I want to deposit 5 million naira and above as an individual, the bank has the responsibility to report such lodgement to the EFCC, ICPC, DSS. That is what the law states. All right? For organization, corporate organization, you are not allowed to deposit 10 million naira in cash, okay, to your bank. If you do so, the bank has the right to report such lodgement to the appropriate government agencies. Okay? Also, when you are traveling out of the country as an individual, you have to disclose the cash that you are holding with you, the foreign currency you are holding with you. Any amount in excess of $10,000 can be what? Can be confiscated, can be seized. You must declare it at the point of departure to the immigration and the custom. Failure to do so will lead to what? Arrest and prosecution. The person will forfeit the fund, and the person is likely to go to jail for 2 years, or the person will forfeit the fund and still go to jail. This played out sometime during the reign of Sule Lamido, the former governor of the Gawa State, when his two sons wanted to travel out of the country from Kano International Airport. As at that time, their father was the governor of Gawa State. So they had over $10,000 on them, but they failed to disclose it at the point of departure. They were arrested and they were prosecuted. Okay? And that's one of the reasons that damaged the reputation of their father from continuing relevance in the Nigerian politics. Okay? Now, for those that like to gamble, in Nigeria, we don't have too many casinos. But the headquarters of casinos can be found in Las Vegas in USA. Now, casino is a place where people can play gamble, or people can gamble. So what that implies is that anywhere you have a casino, the owner of the casino must maintain a register of the people that visit that casino on a daily basis. And that record must be maintained and kept for at least 5 years before destruction. So that record must contain the name and address, the identity of all the customers, phone numbers, everything about them. And that information must be kept for a period not less than what? 5 years. Before they can do what? Before they can destroy it. Still in the law, for banks that we delete or we render dormant accounts, the account that has not been in operation for 6 months, they render it dormant. The law says that even after they are rendered it dormant, they cannot destroy that account information until after 5 years. Until after what? 5 years. Okay? Now, what that implies is that even after they have rendered the account dormant, they cannot just say that the account is gone forever. They have to wait for at least 5 years before they can delete the information or the account in general. All right? Now, for anybody that what do I say now? That contravenes this law, especially the one that has to do with lodgement above 5 million naira, right? The person can be prosecuted, the person will be prosecuted, and if care is not taken, is going to go to jail. You will go to what? Jail. Okay? Now, there's another one again. We call it numbered. This is it here. Numbered or anonymous accounts. Numbered or anonymous accounts. Okay? Now, what do we mean by this? This is no longer in operation in Nigeria. Those days under the military regime, where they used to cut away millions of naira. Okay? These were the media they were using to take money out of the country then. Is an account that is operated. Okay? The account that is operated with what? With code. Code. And that code is only known to selected staff in a particular bank. They are operated with what? Code. And the code is only known to some selected staff members of the bank. Okay? Now, what that implies is that for that kind of bank, you will not know, and it's not open to every person that works in a bank. Only maybe the senior staff, okay, maybe the branch manager, maybe those are the ones that will be aware or that will be made to understand such transactions exist in the bank. Okay, so anybody that is convicted of having anonymous or numbered accounts, the person can be convicted to jail that will not be less than what? 7 years and not be more than what? 14 years. Okay, it will not be less than 7 years and not be more than what? 14 years. Then we have another set in that law: money laundering agents, conspirators, and accessories. So who are agents? Agents are Ordinarily, agents are people that act on behalf of their principal. So what that implies is that if the principal is a money launderer, then the agent is also a money launderer, is a corporate. Who are conspirators? Conspirators are people that know that something is not right. They know that they are laundering money, but they refuse to report to the appropriate law enforcement agencies. You know in your organization that they are into what money laundering, but you fail to report. Such person can be seen as what? A conspirator. They are regarded as what? Conspirators. Who are accessories? Accessories is similar to agents. Okay, these are the people that assist, that facilitate, or that are used as instruments to what? To perpetrate money laundering activities. Okay, now any of these people, whether an agent, a conspirator, or an accessory, right? They can also be convicted to 5 years, okay? To 5 years in prison. They can also be convicted to what? To 5 years in prison. All right? So that is what the law, that's the position of the law as regards money laundering for numbered or anonymous accounts. Any question? Any question?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
My name is Charity.
And welcome on board.
Sir, please, can you go back on the definition on accessories?
Accessories.
Yes, sir.
Accessories are likened to, they are similar to what? Agents. What that implies is that they are used as instruments to perpetrate money laundering activities. They are used as instruments to perpetrate what? Money laundering activities.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Please, can you retake the definition of conspirators?
Conspirators. Conspirators are individuals that are aware of money laundering activities but fail to report. These are individuals that are aware of illegal activities being perpetrated but failed to report. We call them conspirators. Any other question? Any observation? Any comments? Can we continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to the next one. Guidance from professional bodies. Guidance from professional bodies. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? So the institute, when we talk about the institute, I'm talking about the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, right? They have made it easier for their members to be able to detect. They have made it easier. They have made it easier for the people to detect, their members to detect money laundering activities. Okay, so the institute, they, in a way, they've been able to enlighten their members on how to detect money laundering activities amongst their clients. Now, how does this affect the ICAN members? Now, you agree with me that audit firms, right? They solicit or they prospect for clients, new clients, even though they might say that they have clients, existing clients, but they always prospect for new clients. Now, in their prospecting, right, they could be tempted to take on board a client that is involved in what? Money laundering activities unknowingly. I take it again. While prospecting for new clients, they might be tempted to bring in a new client unknowingly that involves in what? Money laundering activities. Okay? So what that means is that before you take up any new member or you take up any new client to be part of your client portfolio, client management, whatever, right? You must ensure you carry out due diligence. Know the sponsors of the organization. Who are the directors? Who are the owners? What's their source of income? What business are they into? All of these things you must know. Because in law, ignorance is not an excuse. Oh, I didn't know. It's not allowed in law. So before you bring such clients on board, you must carry out due diligence on them to be sure and be emphatic that they do not perpetrate money laundering activities. Okay? Now, the Institute also says that in addition to any disciplinary action that may be taken by ICAN for breach of the regulation, penalties for non-compliance with money laundering obligations can make a firm liable under criminal law for unlimited fines and make its principals, usually its partners, liable for possible imprisonment. Do you understand that? Now, what that means is that in case an audit firm is found to be what? Culpable or to be a conspirator, the firm will be liable under criminal law to what? Unlimited fines. And those principal members, those are the partners, they could be jailed, okay, for 7 to for 5 years, right? They will be jailed for 5 years for aiding and abetting money laundering activities. Okay. Now, the Institute also went further to talk about what the audit firm needs to do during the course of performing the due diligence or trying to get new clients. Number one, they must have a money laundering reporting officer within the audit firm. An audit staff must be appointed as what? Money laundering reporting officer in the audit firm. That's the person that will be collating, compiling reports from their clients. And that person will be interfacing with the law enforcement agencies where there are cases of what? Reports. Number two, the audit firm should educate their members on how to detect money laundering activities amongst their clients. How to do what? How to detect money laundering activities amongst their what? Amongst their clients. Okay? Number three, the audit staff, right? They should be educated and enlightened on what they need to do when they suspect fraud. They should be able to do what? They should be able to report, to know the steps to be taken when they suspect what? Fraud amongst their what? Amongst their members. Okay? So these are some of the activities that the audit firm needs to do, right? In the course of what? Ensuring that the client does not does not lead to a situation whereby they will be responsible for what we call the Money Laundering and Prohibition Act. You understand? They will not be found wanting, violating the money laundering prevention and Prohibition Act. Okay? So, another thing we also need to note is duty of confidentiality and money laundering. It's another area that we need to also know. Now, you're talking about duty of confidentiality and money laundering. What that implies is that, remember, as an ICAN member, right, as a chartered accountant, as an auditor, there is this fundamental principle that you must not disclose your client information. Okay? You must not disclose your client privilege information. That is what the fundamental principle states, right? For chartered accountants and auditors. But there are exceptions to this principle. The principle says that where you see that your client is involved in anything that is inimical or that is dangerous or harmful to the state, to the country, right? When the law requires that you speak against your client in a cross-examination, if the police asks that you come and testify against your client for acts of crime, these are the exceptions that in which the accountants, chartered accountants and auditors will deviate from that principle, confidentiality principle, and report accordingly. Now, what you also need to note here is that this principle of confidentiality and money laundering, right? Where the auditor wants to resign because his client is involved in money laundering, he needs to inform the shareholders. He needs to inform them that, oh, I want to resign based on so and so fact. And if he does that, it could be dangerous. It could lead to his death. It could lead to so many things, so many bad things can happen to such auditors. So before the auditor, if the auditor has that kind of privileged information that his client is into money laundering, before he tendered his resignation, he needs to have a discussion or an advice from his what? From his legal counsel, from his lawyers, on how to go about it. And when he's doing this, right, he's not giving a tip-off, because under the law, there's what we call what? Professional privilege. Okay? Or we call it legal privilege, or we call it protected by legal privilege. So it's called professional privilege. That is, under that, in that situation, you can report. You are reporting to your legal counsel, to your lawyer, to seek advice. Because if you don't seek advice and you withdraw your services by resignation, the client can sue you. And when the case starts, you never can tell how the case is going to end. They might have more influence than the audit firm. So before you go ahead to resign, seek legal counsel. So for instance, in an examination, they ask you, you're auditing a client, and it's clear that your client is involved in what? Money laundering activities. What should you do as the auditor? In that situation, you first of all need to explain what is money laundering. Right? You need to explain what is money laundering. Then you need to now state that what is the position of the law as regards what? Confidentiality, principle of confidentiality. You are going to state what I just stated now. That the principle of confidentiality states that you should, under no circumstance, should you divulge your client privilege information. However, there are exceptions to this rule. One is that if the client is acting against the state, against the interests of the state. Number two, if the court of law demands that the auditor should disclose information that could implicate the client, you will need to do so. Or perhaps if the law enforcement, in the course of trying to unravel an investigation, they need you to come and testify against the client, you can also do so. You need to state all of these things. Then when you are concluding it, you now say that before the auditor can resign, there are procedures that needs to be followed, and that the law says that before the auditor can resign, he must give his letter, he must first of all discuss with his what? With his legal counsel and seek what? Professional advice, right? On how to go about what? The resignation. How to go about what? The resignation. So that is how you are going to end it. It's not something that you're going to write like 5 pages. One thing I see with students is that you think that if you write 10 pages or 5 pages in answering a question, that will determine whether they are going to mark it good for you or make it okay. It's not so. Is the content and the context of your answer that determine whether you are going to pass that, you are going to score high mark in that question or not. You go and look at the ICAN Pathfinder, go and check the answers, advanced and advanced suggested solution. You see that the solutions are not always lengthy. It's not, you do not see one that is like 7 pages when trying to explain. You see, it's always concise, summarized. Okay? So don't be taking a back that, oh, because you're answering all the questions, you must write 7 pages. No. Once your answer is concise and contains relevant information, the examiner will give you your mark. Is your ability to be able to understand the technicality in answering audit and advanced audit and assurance question that will determine your performance. And those are the things I'm giving us right away now. Okay? Is that clear? Any question? Any comments?
Yes, sir. Can you come again on how to answer money laundering questions? The last one.
Now, which last one?
The
The
third
question,
thing
right?
about, yes, first you said define money laundering, states the
Yes.
to state the confidentiality principle and its exceptions. Yes. I'm trying to get the last one.
Third one, what you are going to state is that the auditor will need to seek legal advice from his lawyer or from our lawyers before tendering his resignation. Is that clear? Any other question?
Thank you very much. I mean, the last approach has been very helpful in terms of you know, um, taking the soft topic on the money laundering, and then um, preempting a question on the approach on which the ICAN questions can come, and then the likely approach to handling the question. I mean, it's very, very important for us. So I would really love it if we can, maybe for subsequent topics or topics as well, we can be helping us create that kind of consciousness on when or how questions can be framed and how we can best handle them. It would be helpful. The second part of it, that's a comment. The second part of it is, I mean, to the extent that we have these laws and then principles, and there have been decided case where an auditor is found wanting for not disclosing um, clients that have been into money laundries, and likely fine that has been meted on such auditors. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Now, I've answered the first question. So what that means is that at every point in time, I'm coming. I'm trying to see something. Trying to reshare this. So the essence of this class, I want to believe that I'm speaking with students that are eager or that are hungry for what? For success in AAA. And that's the reason why there will be no time I will not be discussing or giving you techniques on how to answer AAA questions in an exam. Right? Secondly, in Nigeria, and we are going to see that when we get to chapter 4, under professional responsibility and liability, there has not been any case that we can use as a judicial precedence to establish whether any audit firm has been convicted or external auditor has been convicted, whether as a conspirator, an agent, an accessory to money laundering, or perhaps even for negligence. None has ever happened in this country, in this our great country, Nigeria.
Interesting to hear that. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other question? Any other question? We are good, right? Now, we are going to this is the last part of chapter 2. And this is one of the areas that I made mention of. When you're answering audit questions, especially when they ask you audit procedures, you cannot miss it. You cannot mix it up. You cannot start from the last to the bottom. You cannot start from the middle to the bottom. You have to arrange it in the order that is arranged in the material that you are using, or in the ICAN study text or pack. You are safer. Let's say the procedures are like 10. You can only remember 5 correctly. You can put it down correctly in that order. You are safer. That for you to put down 10 that you have arranged haphazardly. I take it again. It is better for you as a student. Let's say you have an audit procedure that is like 10 procedures. But because of exam condition, the environment and all of those stuff, you can only remember 5 in that particular order out of 10. Right? It's better for you to just list that 10, write out that 10, and forget about it and go to that question, than for you to remember all the 10 procedures. We cannot arrange them alphabetically or sequentially. If you do so, the examiner will be happy to mark such students down. And these are the reasons why students fail audit. If you put the cart before the horse, it's a big issue. In fact, it's an aberration. So that's why I'm giving you all of these things now. Now we are going to the next area, and this is about audit procedure. Considerations of laws and regulation in an audit of financial statement, ISA 250. What this one states, let me give you the background to this law. What this law is saying here is that before you go to audit any organization or any client, you must have an understanding of that client business. And that's what you have in ISA 315. Understanding the client business, client risk, all of those things. That's what he's talking about. ISA 315. If you cannot understand the client business, don't even bother to go and audit the client. Because there are certain things you need to have at the back of your mind when you are auditing the financial statement of your client. Okay? So you cannot audit what you don't understand. That is the summary of what I'm saying. If you don't understand something, you cannot audit it. So this is what this is another procedure that they have tested several times. And it's not negotiable. If they test it, you cannot rearrange these procedures as you have it here. If you do so, such student is going to fail that question. All right. So that's why I always say that audit is what? It's prescriptive. It's like what do I mean by prescriptive? If somebody is sick now there are procedures to treating the person, right? If you have what we call first aid, somebody is sick, you can take, if you know the person is having constant headache, you take medication, take pain reliever, tablet. They will not tell you that after 3 days, if the headache persists, go to the hospital, right? That's what I mean. If somebody, if they want to, if you are sick, you go to the hospital, the doctor will not quickly just admit you. They're going to ask you a series of questions. You would like to understand what has happened to you in the last 24 hours. Based on that, you will now go and conduct tests. You will now know how they are going to, what they are going to do, are they going to admit or not. These are what we mean by procedures. And the same thing is the same thing happens in audit. It is scientific, it is prescriptive. You cannot, it's not negotiable. Now, when you want to audit a client's financial statement, the first thing you need to do is to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the compliance with the provisions of those laws and regulations generally recognized to have a direct effect on the determination of the material amount or disclosure on the financial statement. All this one is saying now, for instance, before you want to go and audit a bank, you must understand what is the position of Bank and Other Financial Institution Act 2020 as amended. What is the position of that law as regards the audit of financial statements or financial institution? That's what we are talking about. Number two, we need to perform specific audit procedure to help identify instances of non-compliance with other laws and regulations that may have a material effect on the financial statement. So what that implies is that before you go and audit a bank, you must have understood what it entails to auditing a bank. What are the relevant regulations or associated laws that you need to also bear in mind when you want to go and audit a bank? And mind you, you need to also understand that before a bank can exist, the bank must first of all be what? A company. Must be a corporate entity. Do you understand what I'm saying? Then the third one is that to respond appropriately to identified or suspected non-compliance with laws and regulations identified during the audit. All those areas of non-compliances, you need to be able to what? Identify them and discuss them with the what? With those charged with governance. That is the board of directors and the executive management. Okay? So what are the other procedures to help identify instances of non-compliance? So when you get to the client business or client premises, you need to ask them, right? Have you been complying with all the laws that you need to have complied with? Knowing fully well that you that is asking the question as an auditor, you have a grand understanding of all those laws and regulations. So you're asking them, you expect them to reciprocate. Where they skip one, you can tell them that what of this one? What does the law say about EFCC Act? What does the law say about NDIC Act? What does the law say about CAMA? You need to let them know. That's the first thing you need to. Secondly, you need to inspect any correspondence with relevant authorities. Now, every of your clients, they have what we call correspondence file. You must take time to review the correspondence file because sometimes it can happen that some of these your clients, right? Because of so many activities happening at the same time within the organization, they forget to do a follow-up or to respond to some correspondences from the relevant authorities. What am I saying? For instance, the state tax authority, LRS, visited the organization in January. They brought a letter saying that you need to respond that they discover that you have not done XYZ on your account, or you have filed your returns. And they say that we should respond within 7 days. And because of activities that happen in the organization, you fail to respond. You find it, but you fail to respond. It was when the auditors came in March that he was looking at the correspondence file and stumbled on that correspondence with LIRS and asked you, what actions have you taken? That's what we mean by that. Inspect any correspondence with relevant authorities. The third one, during the audit, remain alert to the possibility that other audit procedures might bring insights of non-compliance to the auditor's attention. So we're going to look at what other things can happen when you are doing the audit. For instance, you might see that there is no asset schedule, or the assets that are contained in the asset schedule cannot be verified. They are there in the asset schedule, but cannot be physically verified. Okay? What can lead to that not being done? Simple. If you have some assets in your organization, for instance, you have a retiring director that last year was when he retired. And as part of the board resolution, that he should be given the car that he was using. He should go with the car that he was using. Maybe the guy was using a Land Cruiser, and they gave it to him. They transferred it to him. They asked him to go with it. But they refused to formalize that transaction in their record. They did not do asset transfer. They did not update their asset schedule. So when the auditors came in March, they were checking the assets register or the asset schedule. Upon verification, they saw that some of those assets cannot be verified physically. So that is a non-compliance. All right. Number 3, obtain written representation from management that all known instances of non-compliance or suspected non-compliance have been disclosed to the auditors. What do we mean by written representation? Now, written representation or letter of representation is the same thing. Written representation and letter of representation, they are the same. What does it mean? Now, this is the only letter that is written by the client, explaining reasons why they could not comply with the requirements of the law or requirements of the audit. It's a letter that is usually written by the client to the auditor, explaining rationale or reasons why they could not adhere to what? To the requirements of the audit or requirement of the law. We call it what? Written representation. All right? But I think some of you want to ask, that is the definition, right? In practice, what happens? Now, what happens is that auditors, when they go to audit their clients, they always have a sample of this letter of representation with them. It's part of their audit document. So when they get to the client and they discover any non-compliance, rather than for them to say the client to go and write it, what they do to save time, they will ask the client to present a letterheaded paper where they will print that information and ask the client to read it. If he's okay with it, the client will sign it. So because they are using a client letterheaded paper and the signature of the client means that that document originates or belongs or comes from what? The management. I hope you are getting it. Any questions so far? Any question? So at the end of the day, the next thing you are going to do is that document all identified or suspected instances of non-compliance and the result of discussions with management and or other parties. So instance I made mention of, they did not prepare bank transaction statement on a monthly basis, the auditor will print out evidence to show that the last time they did bank transaction statement was in December 2024. Is going to print it out and tell them that the implication of not preparing your bank transaction statement, it can lead to fraud. You'll not be able to ascertain how much money has been received, how much money has been spent. Okay? You'll not be able to ascertain whether some staff have not been paid since January or some staff receive double salary. You'll not be able to ascertain if you don't do bank transaction statement. So you make all what the management agreed to, you document it down. The next stage, action by the auditor in an event of non-compliance or whether non-compliance by a client company. So auditor will need to take action where they did not comply. Okay? Then, if the auditor identify or suspect material areas of non-compliance by the company, the following procedures are required. Obtain an understanding of the nature of the act and circumstances under which it has occurred. Now, when you're talking about non-compliance, there are two types. Some are immaterial, but they are still not compliance. And some are material. Material means that it should not have even happened in the first instance. If it's happened, then later we need to do what? Perform additional audit procedure to detect the root cause of such non-compliances. Okay? Then the auditor will now look at the effect or the possible effect of non-compliance on the financial statement. Those are the material non-compliances. For instance, if they did not prepare the bank transaction statement, what that implies is that the cash and cash equivalent that is being presented in the financial statement might have been what? Overstated or understated. Okay? Might have been what? Understated or overstated, which is material. Do you understand? So these are the procedures under the considerations of laws and regulation in the audit of financial statement, ISA 250. Any question? Any question? Any comments?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Yes, sir. My name is Emmanuel. I must commend the detailed and the brief and straightforward way in which you deliver this information. Because some of this information, I'm even hearing them for the first time myself.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Secondly, I want to ask, some of us, is it possible that we'll get, even if it's a soft copy of the materials we use, so that we can also be reading ahead and then follow up with the class for proper understanding?
All right. This question was asked yesterday, and I've taken it
No,
to
I
the
wasn't.
management. Yes. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Somebody asked this question yesterday, and what I said is that I've discussed with the management. The management will hear the materials with the students at the appropriate time. You understand? They will share it with the students. Don't be afraid. You are going to have either soft copy or this. You are going to have it anytime soon. Don't worry. You have it. I can assure you of that. Yes. You're welcome, sir. Any other question?
None
Good
on my
morning,
end.
sir. Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sorry, good
Please go
afternoon,
ahead.
sir. Yeah, my name is Olamide, sir. Olamide.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. I want to confirm. Is the old past questions, are they still relevant? You know,
yes.
This is the new syllabus.
They are still relevant. Why did I say they are still relevant? The essence of you looking at the syllabus of the essence of you looking within the past questions is not to look at whether it is in line with the new syllabus. It's for you to understand how to go about answering or presenting your answers in the exam. Do you understand? to understand how to present your answers in exam. Whether the syllabus change or not, there is a pattern that is expected of students to answering advanced international questions. And those patterns are contained in those past questions. Do you understand?
Sir. I've gotten you, sir. Yes, sir. I've gotten you, sir.
All right.
Sir, thank you, sir.
Any other question? Any other question? Comment? Observation? Comments, observation? Questions?
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Like, if they want to ask question concerning this consideration of law and regulation in audit of financial statement, how is the question going to look like?
The question will be
audit...
straight and direct. They will just ask you, what are the audit procedures for considerations of laws and regulations in the audit of financial statements? That's all. Madam Ufoma, have I been able to answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, sir. I can't pronounce your company name.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ifua. My name is Ifua. Please, I'm just
your name is what?
just Ifua.
Ifua. What's the name of the thing is showing 08. What's the name of that
consulting? Consulting. I
will not bite my tongue. Okay, continue.
Sorry, sir. It's just an observation anyway, sir. Please, I want to know the new syllabus that just took effect this November now. And the advanced audit and assurance study pack. Do you think that will still be relevant? Do you think that will still be relevant?
No. That's why ICAN, they are still working on the new study pack. The ones you have on the website is 2021. The one that just expired May diet.
Okay.
Don't go and download it too.
Okay.
Don't download it. Thank God you asked this question. Do not download it. It's no longer relevant because the syllabus has changed. In due time, they are going to present to us the new ICAN study text for AAA. In the meantime, they have provided us with the new syllabus. And with that syllabus, my team and the management of equity professionals, we have sat down, we have reviewed the syllabus, and we have updated the material. This material that we are using is an updated version of the AAA syllabus. So when you are getting it, all the things you need, all the things that have been added in the syllabus have already been incorporated into this material.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, sir. Any other question? Any other question? Comment? We are good, right? So we are done with chapter 2. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to send us some questions, 1 or 2, based on the topics that we have covered so far, chapter 1 and chapter 2. I will expect that every one of us make an attempt. Because if you don't attempt it, you'll not be able to assess yourself whether you have understood or you have not understood how to answer questions. Please ask your question, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
Sir, please, how do we get the recordings of the first class?
Now, the recordings and the materials for this class, right, will be shared by the management soonest.
What about the first class? I was not in
everything.
Okay.
Everything will be shared. Everything from yesterday to today and subsequently, everything will be shared. So I think the management is working on something so that they will now, once they are done, they will share the recordings and the materials with the students.
Thank you.
All right. Are we good? Can we continue?
So you were saying something about you were saying something about question like that, chapter 1 and 2.
Yes, I was saying that. Yes, what I said, thank you. I said, at the end of today, I will send your question, okay? Or sometime very soon. I'm going to send your question to the platform. I'll send it to the platform. So, and what I will expect is that every one of us should attempt it. Don't look at the solution. No. Do it on your own. You cannot be more true to yourself than you attempting it on your own. Attempt it, right? Now, you can now, after you have attempted and you have submitted, I will look at it. We'll discuss it in class. Okay? That is one way to get yourself in tune with how to answer ICAN questions. If you don't attempt it, there is no other way I can assess whether you have understood it or not. Because in communication, for effective communication, there's supposed to be what? Feedback. And the feedback mechanism is you attempting that question. Last diet, I gave some assignment to students, they did not do it. When the class has ended, some of them now came to me that, oh, sorry, we could not submit that time. Can you hear the solution? If you don't attempt it, I will not discuss it in class. I will not discuss it. I will just assume that everybody is cleared, that we are moving, we are advancing, we are moving ahead, we are moving forward. Okay? Those ones that
Hello,
did it.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Please go
Please,
ahead.
I'm so sorry. I'm working. I'm at work, so I want to know what's the assignment, sir. Sorry.
What's the assignment?
Yeah, you said
I've not sent
you
it.
gave us assignment.
I've not
Okay,
sent
you've
it.
not given assignment. Okay.
I've not.
You
I've not.
are giving us later, Abi.
Yes.
Okay.
I've not sent it.
Then somebody asked you for the last class. You know, I didn't know there was a
Yes,
class
recording.
yesterday.
Yes.
I did not know. So somebody asked for the recording. Is it uploaded? Can we get
They
it
will
on
upload
the
it.
website?
They will upload it. It will be uploaded very soon.
Sir,
And the
please help us
materials
talk
too.
with the people. Okay,
Yes,
yes,
and
sir.
the materials too will be shared.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, yes, sir.
Are we good? Any other question? Thank you so much. So we are going to introduce the next chapter, which is chapter 3. We are going to start it, but we will not finish it because of time. The lecture time is 11 to 1, and as it is now, it's just 18 minutes to 1. I cannot afford to leave it. I will start it, right? But we'll continue in the next weekend, okay? Now, what do we mean by this? This is what? Rule of professional conduct. What this means is that in the practice of accounting in Nigeria, or an auditing, or let me say, in the practice of audit and assurance services in Nigeria, right? You have to comply with some principles. Okay, we call it fundamental principles that are contained in the code of ethics. So every profession has their code of what? Ethics. Doctors, medical doctors, they have their code of ethics. Lawyers, they have their code of ethics. What the code of ethics of lawyers is when they are done with their university, right? They will still go to the law school. If you have not gone to the law school, you cannot call yourself a lawyer, right? So for accountants, we have our code of ethics. Now, the code of ethics for accountants in Nigeria is sitting on two frameworks. The first framework is from the Institute of Chartered Accountants Members Code of Conduct. that stipulate the ethics that chartered accountants in Nigeria needs to what? Comply with. And because Nigeria is a member of IFAC, right? IFAC is what? International Federation of Accountants, which is the what? The parent body of IASB. IASB is a subcommittee of IFAC. Automatically, Nigeria is a member. Automatically, Nigeria will comply with all the regulations in IFAC and all its other subcommittees, of which IASB is part of. Okay? So, another thing you also need to note here is that IFAC also has another subcommittee that focuses on ethical guidelines. And that committee is known as what? International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, IESBA, International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, IESBA. That committee focuses on what? Ethical guidelines. They're the one that make pronouncements, they're the one that develop any ethical regulation that will guide the practice of audit and assurance globally. So the two, that IESBA, ethical guideline, and ICAN, Members Code of Conduct, ethics, right, are the two regulations that every chartered accountant in Nigeria needs to what? Comply with. Now, these regulations that I just made mention of now, the Code of Conduct for ICAN, Members Code of Conduct for ICAN, and IASB ethical guidelines, right? In it or in them, they have what? They have fundamental principles that every member needs to adhere with or needs to comply with. Their fundamental principles. In ICAN, the fundamental principles that are contained in the ICAN Members Code of Conduct are: 1, independence; 2, objectivity; 3, integrity; 4, conformity with technical standard, or yes, conformity with technical standard; 5, confidentiality. Let me take it again. ICAN own, we have what? Independence, objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, and the last one is not this one. The last one for ICAN is what? Conflict of interest. So let me make it for the last time. Let me mention it for the last time so that you'll be able to get it. ICAN has 5 fundamental principles. And the 5 principles are independence, objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, and conflict of interest. That makes 5. However, IESBA, International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, has also 5 fundamental principles. And those 5 fundamental principles are: number 1, objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, professional behavior, and conformity with technical standard. I take that one again. For IESBA, the fundamental principles are objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, conformity with technical standard, and what? Professional behavior. That makes 5. So, as a whole, if you combine the two regulations, right? The 2 code of ethics, you combine it, the total fundamental principles. Who can tell me the total fundamental principles? How many are the fundamental principles when you combine the one for ICAN and that of IESBA together? How many will the fundamental principles be? Who wants to try?
7.
7. Is there any other contrary opinion?
Seems 5.
It's 7, sir.
It's 7. Do we all agree? Let me explain. Now, why is it 7? Yes, somebody wants to say something. Please go ahead. Go ahead before I say my
My
own.
name is Chukwemeka.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. That IASB, please, can you give me the...
IESBA. Yes.
IESBA. Okay, please, can you give me the requirement once again?
You have objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, conformity with technical standard, and professional behavior.
Professional behavior.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So how many all in all?
That
you
is
said 7. Yes. Now let me explain why it's 7. For ICAN and IESBA, 3 are common to both of them. And those are objectivity, integrity, and what? Confidentiality. They are found in both ICAN Code of Conduct and IESBA. That is 3, not 6. Do we all agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes. For ICAN, you have what? Independence and conflict of interest, which are not contained in IESBA. In IESBA, you have what? Conformity to technical standard and professional behavior. So the 2, that is 4. 4 plus 3, 7. That's how we got 7. It's not guesswork. I hope you understand. We are not guessing here. That is how we arrive at 7.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Conflict of interest, where does it follow?
It comes under ICAN.
Conflict of interest.
Yes.
So that means ICAN we have 6.
It's 5 now.
Please, can you go through that ICAN again?
ICAN, we have independence.
Okay.
Conflict of interest. Objectivity. Okay. Integrity. Okay. Confidentiality.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. Are we on the same page now? Are we on the same page?
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you.
So what of those professional behavior and professional due care and competence under
Now,
ICAN?
professional due care and competence is the same thing as conformity with technical standard.
Okay.
It's the same. Then you call it professional competence and due care, or you say conformity is the same. Are we clear?
Yes, thank you, sir.
I like this class because it's interactive. I like it because it's interactive. That means everybody understands the purpose of this class. It's not that it's not a one-man show. So I like the way it's interactive. I hope you keep it up. You maintain it to the end of the diet. Okay. Now, so we have gotten that one, right? So let's discuss maybe 1 or 2 before the time ends, or before our session ends. The first one, let's look at independence. Now, independence is what?
So, are we explaining the one for IESBA or for ICAN now?
It's ICAN we are explaining. It's ICAN we are explaining.
Okay.
It's ICAN we are explaining. Independence.
No, sorry.
Independence.
Sorry, sir. Before you then explain, if we have been asked in exam, are we to stick with ICAN or?
Thank you very much. I forgot to. Thank you. That's keep my. I wanted to talk about it, but because of. Okay, let me talk about it. Then we will not be able to talk about this these principles today. Now let me explain. Why did I decide to explain the two fundamental principles or the two code of ethics, the ICAN own and the IASBA? Now the question that was just asked now is a very fundamental question that has made some students to still fail audit. Now, what do I mean? Now, if the question states thus, in line with ICAN, provide or explain the fundamental principles. That's the question now. In line with ICAN, based on the case study that the question is, right? In line with in the above case study, in line with ICAN, list and explain the fundamental principles that can be found in this particular question. So what they expect you to do is to list the one that relates to ICAN. Independence, conflict of interest, objectivity, integrity, and what? Confidentiality. Is that clear? Now, if the question is other way around, in line with IASBA, explain the fundamental principles based on what you have in the question or the case study. You're going to give them the one that relates to IASBA, and that one is what? Objectivity, integrity, confidentiality, conformity with technical standard or professional competence and due care is the same. And the last one, professional behavior. Now we are going to state. I hope you are getting it. Now, if the question is silent, they just ask you, based on the case study, list and explain the fundamental principles that are contained. They did not tell you ICAN, they did not tell you IASBA. In that instance, you have to give them everything, 7. You have to give them what? Everything, 7. Okay? Thank you, sir. I think that explains it. I hope I'm able to answer your question, sir.
Very apt. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that is how to go about it. That's how to go about it. Okay? Thank you for asking that question. So these are some of the things that I'm using to. You can see that today now, you have been open to so many things that maybe you have been glossing over before now, or you gloss over it. But now some of us, you have reflection and say, oh, okay. You understand? So that is how. So for you to pass ICAN, it's not that difficult. Study hard and be intentional. That's just it. Intentional with the what? With the terminologies. All the audit terms. Speak like an auditor, not like a grammarian. Don't speak like a grammarian. You are not speaking English. You are speaking technicalities in audit. It's not for you to write long grammar. For instance, you want to say that the financial statement, the client is supposed to provide information, supporting documents, which other one again? Notes, reports, all of those things. You can see that you are writing English. What's the only terminology for all of these things that I just mentioned now? You say that you are saying that the client is supposed to provide the financial statement, supposed to provide the supporting documents, supposed to provide notes, supposed to provide other information. You are writing all of those things, and it's taking like 3 to 4 lines. What is the technical word that you should have used that would have appealed to the conscience of the examiner? All of these things I just mentioned now. The only terminology that you have used is called what? Provide sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. The client should provide sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. That summarizes everything. It's less than one line, but it has covered more than what you have wanted to say. Do you understand? So in audit, it's not about I gave the examiner marking scheme. I asked for extra paper, extra sheets. No, it's not about that. It's about the what? The context and the content of your answers that matter. So please, let's take a cue from this. We are going to discuss the principles in our next class. I can't start it now because we are just a minute away from 1 o'clock. All right? So is there any question, comment, observation before we call the class a wrap for today? Any comment, question, observation? Any question, comment, observation? Everybody is fine, right? It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
When should
Thank you.
we get the assignment?
Thank you, sir.
You'll get it this week. Before
Okay.
the weekend, you get it.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Are we good?
Thank you, sir.
It's fine,
Yeah.
right? All right. Thank you so much. See you next time. Thank you.